having our COVID-19 quarantine update with our health leader, Dr. Lovelle of Premier Wellness. Hello, Dr. Lovelle.
Hello, Robert. Thank you so much for having me back on.
It's a treat. Every Monday you share your time with us. We're very grateful. It's nice to have someone that you know, like, and trust during these hectic times to give you some real scientific based information. So you're doing us a favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um,
So,
Please.
I was going to say what I would love to talk about today is something that I've been asked over and over, especially this past couple of weeks, is all about masks. And so I have mine. You've got yours. And so the whole question is, do we need to be wearing masks? What good are they doing? Who are they helping? All of those things. That's what I'd like to cover today, if that's good.
Please. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So the main thing is that especially the homemade masks. So these, like this, when this one was
Right.
actually made by one of the nurses I used to work with, these homemade masks that are made out of cloth are there more to protect others from us. So, in other words, it's not keeping all of the droplets out. It's not
Right.
really going to protect you if you're going out, if someone has COVID-19 and is within 6 feet and coughing in your face. That's not what they're there for.
Right.
They are there to protect others from you. Which, on first thought, it's like, why? But then if everyone is doing the same thing right now, if everyone is protecting everyone else from these droplets, then we're all protected. So it's
Right.
really, we're doing something proactive about health. Yeah,
It's right in line with what you're always telling us about take care of your immunity, right? Your
exactly.
immunity so that you're healthy. But if you are carrying it, this small mask can really do help the public. So
Exactly.
it's
Exactly.
great advice. Um,
Hmm.
will any material do? I mean, even in a crunch is a coffee filter.
Maybe something a little thicker than a coffee filter.
Okay.
But I have seen some cloth things from there's like an alcohol that comes in a cloth bottle.
Mm,
Chivas Regal, I think, yeah. And I've even seen those being made into masks. So yes, you can use whatever cloth it is, knowing that it's not, this is not an N95 mask. It's
right.
not going to be filtering stuff. It's really to contain the droplets as they're going out. The other thing that get asked a lot is, what do you do with them? Do you wear them in your car? Do you wear them all the time? The answer is no. You really want
Right.
to wear them when you're around other people. Okay, that's another thing. And then as soon as you come home with them, they need to be washed.
Okay.
So don't, take it off, put it back in your pocketbook and then, or, whatever, and then put it back on again. You need to wash them every single time you go out and come in contact with people.
So if I'm running errands from this public place to that public place, it might be a good idea to have two or three masks. So that
I mean, if we're going to go optimally, yes,
okay,
but that's probably not going to be very realistic. So,
right,
within one particular
outing.
go around, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
what about gloves when I'm out at the grocery store and such?
So I would say things like gas stations,
Hmm.
absolutely. If you're touching that pump and things, you want to have on some disposable gloves if you can. In the grocery store, maybe not as critical, but when you do bring your things home, make sure that you're wiping everything down before you
Right.
start putting it away in your home.
So clean it up as soon as it gets in the house.
Exactly. Exactly.
So what have you noticed with the statistics that are out there? You've always done a very good job of turning raw data into something we can use.
Well, thanks. And so I'm going to talk about some statistics, but keeping in mind that, like with any statistics, you can almost make them whatever you want.
Right.
And one of the things that's a little concerning is that we are not testing everyone, and until
Right.
we test everyone, we don't really have 100% true statistics. So, with that being in mind, the good news is that especially in our bellwether state, which is New York, at this
Mhm.
point, we're not seeing that steep climb anymore. What we're now seeing is kind of like a bounce up at the
Mhm.
top. So the days, it kind of goes up and down on more
Right,
of a straight line at this point. We haven't quite hit that downward curve yet.
right.
And that's what we're really, that's what we're really looking for and hoping for. But at least right now, we're not seeing that steady upward climb either.
Okay, so we've broken the upward climb, and it's more like any given day, the high tide's a little higher or a little lower, but we haven't
Right.
really seen the trend where the tide is pulling out.
Exactly. Exactly.
And at what point of that downwards curve could we consider getting out of quarantine?
Oh, that's a tricky one, Robert. Thanks for that one.
Now, n- no
um,
softballs here.
yeah, exactly. But looking at the countries who are ahead of us,
Right,
especially China, Italy, we're thinking that if we're, a week or so where we're in that real downward climb, then we could start thinking about coming out. The one thing that we don't want to do, though, is come out too soon and
right.
then knock ourselves back up into, an upward climb again.
Right. And I think something to keep in mind is even when it's open, we don't have to rush out into bad habits. We can continue to wash our hands. We can continue to take these things we've learned and be proactive and minimize the exposure. It's not like you just have to turn the switch on and all go out and, you know,
And exactly,
right,
exactly. Absolutely right. You said it perfectly. Keep in mind, where we've been for the last month, month and a half, and slowly get back in. As you mentioned, we don't need to like run to the corner, the store or the corner restaurant or anything right away
right.
in a big group. Yeah.
And we can continue to keep our immune systems and our health optimal, which is always the best case for us. If we're healthy, then if we are exposed to it, we have a better chance of having little to no impact.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what we're
Um,
seeing over and over again. It's the people who are suffering from chronic conditions, more older people who are really having the worst cases. So, absolutely.
you
Hmm.
mentioned that last time. You said there were two majorly impacted populations was
Hmm.
65 plus, and those with the compromised immune systems.
Right.
Are we for a long time, or initially I kept hearing if you're a teenager you're safe, or you see I think predominantly younger people going I'm immune, but I see more and more that you really don't know who's going to be affected. Has any more of that statistics or information become available?
They're looking, and so it's not even so much teenagers anymore. Now it's kind of a little bit shorter. It's around the preteen age. They're
Oh,
saying they're still a little bit more protected. And there are some studies out there are thinking that maybe it has to do with melatonin and growth hormone. We don't know. At this point, we don't really know. But there is still that little bit of protection if you are younger. And again,
okay,
maybe it is just because you don't have all of those chronic conditions
right.
yet.
You
Mhm.
haven't abused
Yet.
everything for
Mhm.
decades.
Yes.
Anything else that you wanted to touch on while we have you, Dr. Lovelle?
I think we pretty much covered the big stuff for this one. As you mentioned, it's really just about being proactive
Right.
and taking care
I
of your
have
own self.
I have seen a lot of these other states not be as quarantine minded as North Carolina. Will we be able to look at those later that opened up too early? Do you think there will be a measure to say, well, that state opened up, you see more cases? Is there going to be a
Absolutely,
correlation?
absolutely. The one thing also that is concerning is that our states are open. Our state borders are open, and there's nothing to say that, the state next to us who did open soon, that the people there can't flow back and forth.
Right.
So that's one of the other little concerns that we have that all of us should have.
Okay. Well, before you go, I'd like to remind everybody that April 23rd, you have another webinar
Yes.
entitled A Natural Approach to Hormones and Immunity. So, a very hot topic right now.
Mhm.
And if we wanted to participate with you on that, Dr. Lovelle, how would we get in touch?
Mhm. Actually, if you go to my Facebook page, that would be the easiest way to register. It's also on Eventbrite, but if you go to Facebook page, which is Premier Wellness with Dr. Lavelle.
Well, Dr. Lovelle, thank you for joining us. Always a treat. We really appreciate you helping steer us through the quarantine and keep this scary time somewhat in perspective.
Thank you.
And Raleigh, I'll remind you that Dr. Lovelle is right here in your backyard. Feel free to reach out to her. All this and more is right here, where? In your backyard. Thank you, Raleigh.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lovelle.
Thank you.